Namaskar and welcome to this episode of National Perspective. Today we are going to discuss about the situation in Tawang. The reported incursion or attempt of incursion by Chinese soldiers in the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh and the narrative or the battle of narratives that is happening after that. There are three fundamental questions. If on 9th of December 2022, Chinese soldiers attempted this incursion on the India-China border in Arunachal Pradesh, what was the intent behind it? Even after Indian soldiers giving a befitting reply, Defense Minister giving a statement in the parliament, even armed forces or Indian army making the position clear on the ground, why there are certain voices creating doubts in our minds? And three, what is the larger battle that is happening or that is being played by China through various actors, not just in India, but globally? We need to get into the background of what was happening before this incident inside China. In the name of zero COVID policy, the Xi Jinping-led Communist regime in China imposed ridiculously inhuman restriction on its own people. Despite that, COVID-related deaths continued. Amidst the frustration of tight regulation, a deadly fire broke out in Urumqi city, which is in Xinjiang province. That was on November 24, 2022. At least 10 people died, including 3 children. No one could move out of the high-rise building due to the COVID-related restrictions. We didn't see any global narrative against China on this. But within China, the protest erupted. Not just in Urumqi, but in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Zhengzhou, everywhere, 51 universities, including the alma mater of Xi Jinping, Tsinghua University, saw large-scale demonstrations by students. They were demanding freedom from Chinese Communist Party. They were openly saying down with Xi Jinping. They were giving a call for freedom, for justice, against dictatorship. This was, in a way, a reminder of the Tiananmen Square of 1989. This was not a good sign for Xi Jinping, as his actual third term is yet to be started. And therefore, CCP decided to relax certain norms related to COVID-19 and give certain relaxations to the citizens. But obviously, they were not satisfied. So what is the option for any dictatorial regime in such a situation? Simple. Divert the attention. With the requirement of vaccines from America, Taiwan front was not a viable option. So Beijing opted for the another front, that is Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh. As reported in media on December 9, 2022, Chinese soldiers tried to transgress the Yangtze area of Tawang. Bharatiya soldiers gave a befitting reply and forced the Chinese to return to their posts. Reportedly, 9 Bharatiya soldiers and 22 Chinese soldiers got injured in the physical combat. Now, this was a incident, and therefore, political and social media voices obviously reacted to such a border clash. As per the parliamentary tradition, the demand for a statement from the government is also understandable. Accordingly, Defense Minister informed the Parliament. Subsequent flag meeting also took place involving both the local commanders in the border area, and the situation is kept under control. But shockingly, there were certain people, the moment we got this news, was in a celebratory mood especially in social media. And in political sphere, there were some leaders who tried to use this incident to score their brownie points. Now, if you see historically, Chinese incursion is not a new thing. Nehru's over-obsession with about the friendship with Communist China gave away the autonomy to Tibet in the name of Panchashil. Panchashil was actually granting that autonomy, and since then China has been playing a mind game. Every time China violates the LAC, which was agreed even after 1962, besides few exceptions, Indian response was not very assertive. But the situation changed drastically since 2015. 2015 because the critical environmental clearance that is required for infrastructural development in bordering areas, that clause was removed for the defense related projects or bordering areas. That allowed not just the border infrastructure improvement, but also strengthening of the village communities, fast movement of troops and weapons, and therefore the situation on the border changed very fast. The amendment to Article 370 and in a way nullification of those restrictive kind of provisions where Indian government had limited say in many of the northern sectors, especially related to Ladakh. India further even clearly came out with a demarcated district-wise political map reclaiming entire territory. This was a problematic thing for China, and China reacted very sharply. China realized that the usual tool of using Pakistan as a proxy is not going to help. China also realized post Balakot and the surgical strikes that China has to now play its own role. And therefore, a new game was started using the Chinese proxies within India to peddle the Chinese narrative. The situation in border areas changed very fast, but domestically, the communist intellectual infiltration that was allowed by Nehru since 1955 still continued. Nehru did not allow a submissive policy towards China to creep in, but also allowed the communist dictatorial regime to build a pro-China constituency within Bharat. What do? They stand and defend Maoist insurgents as revolutionaries fighting for social justice. They create awe about China's progress. This Chinese lobby successfully bats for Beijing, questions India's democratic model but never utter a word against China's human rights violations. With the growing economic might, China also invested in academia, media, think tanks to peddle its narrative not just in Bharat but world over. Information warfare is waged against democracies through cyberspace. Can you imagine prominent leaders of Indian communist parties, or rather communist parties of India, participate in the centenary celebrations of the CCP? Media houses take full-page advertisements and in return play Chinese narratives. Activists and organizations get financial support to fight their legal and revolutionary battles, and nobody questions them. Rajiv Gandhi Foundation of Congress Party accepts donations from the Chinese embassy. The Congress Party signs a consultative agreement, a mutual bilateral agreement with the Chinese Communist Party as a ruling party without giving any explanation to people of India. China has found new avenues through investments in many tech sectors, including edutech, to peddle its narratives. Media and entertainment is one of such important sectors. And that is why we see certain celebrities getting huge success in the Chinese market, promoted by CCP, they take pride in mocking our own armed forces? Some scholars even dare to discredit the warnings given by people like Sardar Patel to Prime Minister Nehru way back in 1950. RSS Sarsang Chalak Golwalkar, Guruji, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, everybody had warned about this. But the Chinese not just continued the belligerent approach, and India continued with this mindset of Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. And what we see as the result in 1962, we faced the humiliation, but as a follow-up, we have faced the Chinese incursion in our mind space. Our soldiers can handle the situation on the borders as they know the enemy's intent. The real challenge is to expose the Chinese operators within and deal with them intellectually and legally. This incursion is much more dangerous. China is discrediting democracies. And as Sardar Patel had warned in his famous letter of November 7, 1950, hitherto the Communist Party of India has found some difficulty in contacting communists abroad, but with China annexing Tibet, now they will find it easier to get access to Chinese material and weapons. Now with cyber technology, that hurdle is also gone, and that's why we find many media, academic, think tank related, even media and entertainment related voices who stand for the Chinese narrative. The real lesson of Tawang, because every now and then there are claims and counterclaims made on the border, if especially the border is so-called disputed. Unfortunately, we have accepted this earlier from Nehru's time, so we have to deal with it. Ideally, historically, there was no such dispute because Tibet was never part of China. Now, on paper, means the British and Tibetan agreements prove that from 1814 onwards. But now that we have accepted and we have to deal with it, our armed forces are prepared enough. We have strengthened our border infrastructure. We have strengthened our troops on the borders. We have given enough strength to our local communities. What we need to do now is to expose these faces who stay in India but get somehow assistance from China to peddle the Chinese narrative. Tawang incident has fortunately exposed such faces, and therefore I would say the time is to expose and discuss the real incursion. The real incursion in Indian mind space by China through the CCP's operators within Indian borders. I hope you like this analysis of national perspective. Keep supporting Organiser in this endeavor for nationalist views beyond news. Please follow and support our social media handles. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with your friends, family members, and other social community members. Thank you very much. Namaskar.